Come on,
Okay.
let's go.
Can we just call this four sarcastic old dudes playing games?
Okay, great.
I think that's probably better.
Okay, here we are. It's the first episode of Old Guys Playing Games. I'm Jason. I'm joined with three other of my pals from all over the place. We're going to talk about what us old dudes do in our free time, among other things, as we'll talk about on this show. Playing video games. I'm going to start off by introducing my pal, Stuart, and Ken and Josh, and we'll tell you through the course of the discussion our gamer tags. But today we'll just start off with a little bit of background on who the old guys playing games really are. But let's start with Stuart. Stuart, tell us a little bit about where the heck you're from, and maybe in your introduction also, what was the first game you ever remember playing as a kid?
Hey, Jason. Well, I am an old dude. I don't think I need to say how old it is, but I'd say I'm above the 50 number. What was the first? So I grew up all over the place as a kid, but I was an Atari kid back in the day.
Atari, yeah.
So yeah, I think my first. I'm trying to remember. My first game was clearly Pong. There's no doubt. Pong was absolutely revolutionary when I was a kid. I mean, the idea that you could, and we had it in places. The kids that had Pong were the cool kids, right? But then Atari was it. Atari was, for me, changed my life, right? And then at the end you had like ColecoVision and television, all that kind of stuff.
Well, let's not go there. Let's not go there yet. Let's start with your first one. We'll get there. We'll get there. Can I hear you?
My first was Pong.
Okay, your first was Pong. Next is Ken. Ken, you were jumping in there. What was your first game, and who were you?
Well, I'm not as old as Stuart, but I had older siblings. And they had Pong, and that was the first game I played as well. And I'm an old guy, don't get me wrong, but I'm not as old as Stuart, but probably younger than the rest of y'all.
We don't need to keep saying
that.
Okay?
I've been gaming for a long time.
I think that's
a
theme.
I just had to clarify that, just make sure that everybody knows that I'm not the oldest here.
Okay, we got it.
Let's see if the next guy carries the theme forward. Josh, you're up. What was the first game you ever played? Who the heck are you?
Well, first
and are you
of
older
all,
than Stuart?
No, I'm not. I'm probably younger than all of you, right? But I feel like this is really stiff. Let's have some fun with this, guys.
Okay.
My first game, I was Atari as well. I was an Atari guy, but like Pitfall and that kind of stuff. I think the first game I played was maybe it was Space Invaders. It might have been actually Space Invaders on Atari, something like that. But then I graduated into more exciting stuff.
Okay.
But we can't talk about that yet.
We don't go there yet. Okay. I thought we would have a 4-for-4 with Pong, because I was a Pong. I can still remember the day my dad came home from work with this thing. He plugged it into the TV. I was like in awe. What are you doing? What are you plugging into the TV? He's like, oh, we're going to play this game. And that was Pong, and I can remember it like it was yesterday. I'm not as old as Stuart. I'll keep that theme going. Maybe a few years younger, but maybe not as wise either. Right, Stu? Definitely not as wise.
Wise or wise ass?
Still be the first one to tell you that you're not nearly as wise.
Or humble.
Well.
Or humble.
There's not a lack of confidence on this team. Let's put it that way. That's what
not
we
at all.
So well together.
So I gotta ask, like, how did this? So we're not all in the same city, right? Few of us are now, but like, how did this thing?
I know where this is going.
Okay, how did it start?
The vid, man.
No. Actually, I'm actually really disappointed that you went.
Oh,
there.
to go all the way back. All the way back.
The way back.
Wolfenstein, man.
Oh yeah.
That was it.
Right.
Yes.
Wolfenstein, that's right.
Castle Wolfenstein.
That was
it wasn't Castle.
Stein.
It's not Castle.
Depends.
It was,
I was gonna say Stein.
Castle Wolfenstein.
Oh, this gun is awesome. Yeah.
Okay. Now, if you haven't picked it up, there's a few of our colleagues that are actually playing a game right now. We'll talk about the game that we play religiously in a moment, but we actually did. We started playing back in, what was that, the late 90s or early 2000s?
98, I think.
No, it wasn't that far back.
No, it wasn't that far back. It was in the
It
2000s
was probably
because
like
it was after Xbox Live. So
and I think
2002 is when
my
Xbox
daughter
Live came
was
out.
like probably three, maybe 2 or 3. So
I think
probably
it
like
was
2005.
I don't know if we had kids.
But your daughter's the same age as Ian, so I think it was the same. It would have been they were born in 2002, right? 2003.
2003.
Yeah, so it was right around there.
Yeah, so that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
So somebody gave it away, but what did we played that on what system?
360.
No, the original Xbox.
No, right. Original Xbox, the OG.
That's right. Yes.
See, I
look at you with your memory.
I was not going to get an Xbox.
I remember.
I had a PlayStation 1.
Ugh.
And it causes me some strain to say that too, but I was not going to get an Xbox, and Stu, who we were already good friends, we went to college together. We won't mention the college, but woohoo!
All girls school, right?
But he got it. He got the OG and said, "Oh, you got to check this out." I'm like, man, I don't really want to, because I know if I see it, I'm going to want to buy it. And he's, "Oh, you got to see it." So I went over to his place and he showed it to me, and of course I turned around and bought it. But and that was how it all started.
Do you remember
for me anyway?
The first multiplayer, like, because we all got the Xbox, but then the first multiplayer where you played it over the intranet, was a pain in the ass. Like, just connecting to a game.
I don't even remember, nightmare. Honestly.
Well, I know that Stu and I were beta testers for Xbox Live, and that was in the summer of like 2000.
That is correct.
How'd you guys get to do that?
I feel like Stuart always gets into those.
This was before Stu had all of his connections, but no, I think what it was is we were avid Xbox players, and we had seen somewhere on the infancy of the internet that there was they were trying out something new called Xbox Live.
Yeah, there was something. I'm trying to remember. Ken, you're right. I don't completely remember. I think it was. I remember I ordered mine early, right? And
yeah,
I want to say that because I'd ordered early, or because I'd subscribed to the Xbox magazine at the time, that sort of gave you a in or something.
Yes. God,
the Xbox magazine. Yes.
Always had a disc in it, and you had all these demos and everything.
I do not remember. You guys are nerds. I didn't have
that. And that was the throwback back to my early game days, right? Because in those days, you remember early game days where you'd get a game magazine, you'd always get a disc in it, right? And that was even the PC one.
Yep.
The PC game. Yeah, exactly. So we started, like, it sounds like we all had Atari. We then, like,
I did not.
Whoa,
I was the nerd I did not have
Commodore
I was
64.
the nerd that did not.
Yes.
I had hold on. I had the Intellivision. So I was the nerd. I was the nerd whose father was not well off to be able to purchase the Atari.
Oh,
so I got the knockoff, the Intellivision.
I thought the Intellivision was more expensive.
It was more expensive. The rich kid in my neighborhood had Intellivision.
Yeah,
I don't remember that at all.
Oh my gosh, yes.
I don't remember that. I just know that I didn't have the popular one. That's how I remembered it. But
that's just your life.
But I have great memories with that because my father and I, my father was, working at a automotive manufacturing facility. He's old school from the South, and he was sitting there playing Intellivision with me,
that's interesting.
Playing
was that the one with the
Night Stalker. This is a hillbilly from the foothills of Tennessee.
That's
yes,
cool.
dude.
But I loved that. That was fun.
That had that weird controller that you had.
It did.
The gold.
You had to put plastic inlays in it that had, because it had originally it had a disc directional pad. Then it had numbers 1 through 0 and pound and star. And then you put the inlays on top of that, then that would show you the controls for the game. Yeah, it was really bizarre. It was
so
a really
funny.
Weird way to do it.
They had a baseball game on there, and my friend, that was like he played that hours and hours and hours a day. And when you didn't have the inlays, because like the inlays would get lost, but then there was like a certain pitch combination that he always would use, and I knew exactly what it was because his keys were sort of worn out in that spot where that certain pitch. So I was like, I know he's always going to pitch this slider hilarious. To the left, and I'm just gonna like back.
So back to the game. So back to the console ones, because I think that's, you're right. You could always find especially when you played games like baseball and stuff or football next to each other, because you'd always peer over like spying a pitch in baseball. But who had, Ken, I think you mentioned the Commodore, right? So I had the color Commodore 64. Mm-hmm. And when my original games, they came on, get this, kids, cassette tapes.
Cassette tapes, yes.
What?
That sound.
Oh,
yeah. I had that with my TI 99 4A.
That's exactly right. You put the games in, you put them in, and then you have to put tape. You have to flip the tape over to get the other part of the game, right? Oh
yes.
Yeah, dude. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
I had the floppy disks. I didn't have the tapes.
But I remember, and this is, I'm going to take, I think I've mentioned this to you guys before, but a little diversion with when I got that TI 99 4A, that little computer thing, with the little cassette tape. And then I think it had like a very early modem port on the back. And I didn't have a modem in my computer, but because that movie War Games came out, I plugged it into the wall, and I swore that I was gonna hack
and you blew out the whole freaking thing.
Oh my god! What an idiot! What an idiot! Oh my gosh!
Yeah, and then you couldn't play. What's the name of that game you play on the Trash 80s? It was the Opium one or whatever. Where you,
what the hell was
that? Oregon Trail. Oregon Trail.
We all played that.
There was Zork. There was
Zork.
I swear it was Oregon Trail though.
Pick up hammer. Drop hammer.
It was text-based.
Yeah, it was text-based. That was crazy.
I had the Commodore 64 with a floppy disk drive, and it was not color. I didn't have the money for a color.
Oh, here we go. Okay,
but but then later on, hey, you had the Atari
26.
No, you had the 50. Yeah, the 5200.
Yeah, whatever the original. I had the Sears version of it.
I can remember.
The Sears?
I had a, what do you call it? Like a newspaper route, and I mowed lawns, and I made enough money to go buy an Atari. And I went to this, Ken, you know where we went? Service Merchandise. I think we went to Service Merchandise. And I bought the Atari. That's where I bought the Atari. We were just talking about this the other day. And I think the two games I bought were maybe Defender and Pitfall. Somebody else mentioned Pitfall earlier.
Pitfall was a great game.
It was. I remember like opening that the cartridge would come in that little thing with a booklet in it.
Yeah.
And you would just look at it the entire way home. Like, when I get home, I'm putting this into my Atari. Now, Stu, were you the one that had ColecoVision?
No, I was.
Oh, you had guy. Amiga. Amiga?
I
you
was
had
an
some
Amiga
crazy
guy, I did Amiga, and the Amiga was the first, I remember Amiga was the first real gaming PC, right?
Yeah, that thing was crazy.
I mean, the guys they were Apple guys, and I can't remember where else they came from that started it, and it ended up it powered a lot of the sci-fi TV series at the time. It was the stuff, right? Never have I had a computer that I sold 10 years later for more than I paid for it.
That's amazing. Now, we totally skipped over. Did we skip over Nintendo, or did Nintendo come after?
No, we didn't get there yet.
Nintendo.
Nintendo's after.
What? Okay, we're done. We're done with this podcast.
You didn't have Nintendo? How did you not have Nintendo?
I was at the Atari at that point. So and if you look at Atari,
but that was after, wasn't it?
No, I don't think it was.
The 8-bit Nintendo?
But look at the dates. And then the other thing is, one thing about the Atari that was interesting, all the gaming companies like EA and all those guys started on the Amiga, sorry.
Oh, really?
Interesting. That was their OG. Anyway, but no, I never had Nintendo, and I don't know why. But
my friend had it, and we would go, he got it first in the neighborhood. We would go, all the kids would go into his basement. This is in Ohio. And we would play Punch-Out for probably... we would start at 8 o'clock at night, and we'd be done at 2, 3 in the morning. Punch-Out, one game, the entire freaking night. It's kind of like our Call of Duty. Call of Duty. Yeah. And Stu went there. So that's the game we're playing at the moment, and it takes so much of our time, but it's such a great reprieve from life. We started playing that. Someone dropped. Who dropped?
Kenny
dropped.
Ken dropped. We lost Ken.
Kenny probably got into a heated moment in the game. But yeah, he's still playing. Okay, so those guys are playing without me. They played without me earlier. No, he dropped off.
We're not doing well without you, Jason. It makes you feel any better.
So I am, just so all the listeners know, of the Call of Duty players, I'm probably the best. So
this is where you test my humbleness.
On the whole, Josh might be the best. I'm probably the second best. And but anyway, we're all really good in our own ways. Ken is like the animal at this game type on Call of Duty called domination. He tends to play well there. But before we go into Call of Duty, which we could spend just oodles and hours of time on, we've had this discussion before. Josh, were you ever into PC gaming ever?
I was like probably 15 when I was 15 or 16, and I couldn't stand it because it would always crash. You have to do the updates. But I would play Wing Commander. I would play.
That was great.
What else did I play? Oh man, I got to think about that. I remember Wing Commander vividly. Mark Hamill. What else was it?
Was Command and Conquer? Was that?
Yes, yes. Command and Conquer.
Command and Conquer definitely was. Ken is saying that he's not hearing us, so I'm going to join him back in because it's so easy to do. So I played lots of Command and Conquer on let's see, I had, during the time when like Dell computers and Gateway, those were like the two. I had a Dell, and it had a really good video card in it, so that's when I started to get into PC gaming. But I didn't really, I played one or two games, but I never really got into it. Stu, were you a PC gamer outside of that Amiga you had?
Yeah, I was. Well, I definitely was. And I had, when Kenny gets on, we can talk about when I got we were in college and I got my Gateway, right? So I think I moved over to Gateway.
You were a Gateway guy. The
Amiga was a PC gamer, right? I mean, it was a PC game. And then when I moved over to Windows PCs, it was a Gateway. Yeah. And then, you always get the jacked up one for like $3,000, which now couldn't even run my, watch battery, but still.
Right. Ken, you dropped off there for a second, but we talked about our first sort of like PC gaming rig, which Stu said was a Gateway. Do you remember what your first?
Yeah, because we were friends at the time, and I think we both got Gateways, and as Stuart just mentioned, I just tapped in at the end. It was, by that standards, it was awesome. By today's standards, it was crap.
Yeah.
Correct.
But I'm still struggling to try to remember what the first game I played. There was a game called Ball Blazers that was it would be compared to like a Rocket League of today, because you had this like floating contraption that you were in, and you were basically playing soccer is what you were doing. But the graphics were absolutely horrible compared to today's standards, but it was awesome at the time. Yeah. I think that was
I've never heard of it.
First. Yeah, it's a deep cut, but that was one of my favorite games for a long time. But
I'm looking it up now. Wow, that is really old school, Ken.
I know.
Oh my gosh, the graphics are hellacious.
I know.
Josh played Wing Commander.
Yeah, Wing Commander.
God. Yeah, I played the entire series of Wing Commander. I had before I met Stu, I was in college in another state, and I had a guy down the hall that had a computer, and he had Wing Commander, the multiple floppy type game, and he had the joystick, the flight stick, and all that stuff. So my roommate would be the guy that does all the commands on the keyboard, because he was actually studying to be a pilot anyway, and I was the dude running the stick and the trigger, and we had a blast. We had a blast with that game. I love that game.
That is cool. When we played
the other game I just thought of was Larry Bird versus Magic Johnson one-on-one.
Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh! That was so good. Dude, I'm gonna go try to find that game. I played that for hours.
That game.
That was the predecessor to NBA Jam, wasn't it? You know.
Probably, yeah. But man, I love that game.
Yeah. Well, then they changed it. They changed it to Michael Jordan.
Yeah, I think
Bird versus Jordan.
I think that was right. I think I was already on Nintendo by then, so because I got so fed up with the PC that I never came back. Once the console started getting stable, it was like.
Well, can we talk a little bit of there was Earthworm Jims and the Leisure Suit Larrys of the world and those kind of games, which we'll probably do separate.
Oh well, don't forget Lemmings. Lemmings
was one of the greatest games ever made.
What about Lode Runner?
Yes,
Lode Runner was good.
Yes, that was the one with the elevators, right?
Yes, and
I
ladders.
It.
Oh God,
yep. Loved that game. I was a big fan of spy movies and stuff like that.
Spy versus Spy.
Scratched an itch for me.
Spy versus Spy. That was
Spy
another one I played on Commodore 64.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that was an old one. Spy Hunter. That was an arcade. Yeah, that was the ones in the arcade. I wouldn't even talk about arcades. You know, like the Dig Dugs and Pac-Mans.
Well,
you know.
What about our days? It's funny. So Ken was. So I'm not going to mention. So I was at the football game Thursday, and one of the other guys that's near us graduated just before we did. And we were talking about hanging out at, going to the Fazoli's. And by the way, Wild Pizza was the name of the place we'd watch The Price is Right every.
That's right.
He's like, I'm like, oh my God, I can remember it. But Ken and I used to play NFL Blitz in the pizza place across from school. He'd be Detroit and I would be Dallas.
I loved that game.
Yeah,
that game was great. You could play 4 people, right? It was like one of the bigger ones that had 4 across.
Yep.
Blitz was great.
It was insane.
So
it was like playing.
We should do a whole other thing on the big stand-up console games because that's where my passion really started.
That's where it started. Yeah, we'll come back there. But in terms of a first episode and introducing the gang, this is a great start. I'm looking forward to this. There's times that we've been playing the game and we said, damn, we should be recording this because it's pretty damn funny. We'll figure out a way. Those guys are playing right now, but we'll figure out a way to record our antics as we play. Yeah. It's not PG. I'll tell you that much.
We're playing, and I've probably come in first, in every game.
Yeah, of course you did. Yeah.
The trash talk is reminiscent of my high school days, but I will say this: it is great relaxation and great thing to do, especially when it started. We'll talk about our lockdown experience and how it all started to rekindle back to where we are today, which I think will be awesome.
It is. It's pretty amazing. I'm fortunate to have friends like you guys. So thanks for joining me for the first episode. I know I'll end it on a sappy theme, but you guys get back to your game, and I'll see you up there in 2 minutes. Okay. Take care, all.
Bye.
Thanks for listening.